emit keystrokes. This is about as basic as it gets. You're just throwing input. Screen scraping and scripting. Auto it. If you're not familiar with Auto It, go check it out. It's pretty cool. I've seen some amazing things for Eve that actually would account for the background color of the environment you were in, to adjust the OCR, to tell what the statistics were. And people have spent, thousands of man hours trying to work around it in this way. And it's really the tool of the layman, right? You can get so much more done more quickly elsewhere. Obviously the most direct, just reach in and touch memory. Go read state that's already there. Go modify state, that sort of thing. If you've ever had a Game Genie when you were a kid, same thing. It just locked a piece of memory. You can do the same sort of thing in modern PC games. So all of these are thwarted with a very simple, are you there? Either by manually initiated by a game master or with some sort of automated query, which of course can be thwarted if it's automated, but asking people to do something semi-intelligent like basic math or name the color of something, that sort of thing. All of these make it very easy to detect when someone is automating. So the ways in which you tend to see things actually be exploited are actual takedowns in the form of like a classic exploitation with like a buffer overflow or numeric condition. And more common in actual use is taking advantage of race conditions and state flaws. Specifically, any kind of item dupe is just because you've managed to add an item to another character without having it removed from yourself, and then somehow ensuring that your character is not saved in that state where the item has been removed. We actually saw that some people tooling around with the Warhammer protocol were actually understood it better than some of the engineers in-house. They were able to craft specific packets to ensure that such and such in Zone 3 and such in Zone 4 could transfer an item, and then Zone 3 guy would be replaced with some guy that was actually already logged on in Zone 5, and he actually booted him off, and now you've got two people wielding the +2 sort of ownage, which then sells for $1 million gold in the auction house, which they then sell to you for $9.99. So I don't actually know where you can get $1 million gold for $9.99, don't ask. So some other things that people like to do: packet injection and sniffing. Sniffing, way more popular. It's almost impossible to detect unless you're actually looking for someone running some sort of monitoring tool on the same box. You can put on another box, problem solved. So the way you thwart that, use SSL. Doesn't actually have to be incredibly strong. It just makes it so that you have some way of verifying that contents originated with you. What that does is forces the attacker to come into the client where you actually have some programmatic control, and you can actually tell what's going on, how they're developing their tool. You can actually watch them as they do it. Also, this poor camera guy, have you been drinking, sir? Or are you just really bored? Oh, fuck you too. So, an account theft. People often spearfish, whatever, get a keylogger onto your system. They'll actually say, hey, this is a tool that'll help you earn $1 million gold, download it, run it, and then it doesn't work, or maybe it does. And next thing you know, your account is empty and your perps have been sharded. That's just, it's actually the most common attack that we saw actually run was keylogged. So, what does Bioware currently field for MMOs? Ultima Online. Yeah, it's true. They didn't write it, but they maintain it. There is a full-time engineering team still writing code for this 12-year-old 2D game. No shit. Dark Age of Camelot. It's going to be 9 years old this month, actually. Warhammer Online, 3 years old. Star Wars Old Republic. Never actually going to release. Not ever. Yes, I know Duke Nukem Forever has been canceled. That's what makes this especially delicious. It's never coming out. In reality, the guys working on this game down in Austin are doing a kick-ass job. They fucked up a lot of things, but it's getting better. And some of the guys at BioWare in Virginia are pitching in, and which is the office I worked at, are pitching in and are helping even do design for the PvP stuff. It's actually going to be pretty good. I know I trash talk it a lot. I'm sorry. So this has actually happened to multiple game companies. We know this because other people have asked us how we dealt with it. Website got owned. Either it was like some sort of PHP BB type crap, hosting forums or whatever forum software, resulted in some sort of SQL injection, was actually then used to escape. The box got rooted with an LPE, and now the damn thing is hosting viruses. You click on a news link and you're owned. Defense in Depth actually saved the day on this one. While we did manage to infect thousands of customers with viruses, we did also protect all of the critical information, including game database, credit card and billing information, that sort of thing. So they didn't actually really get anything useful until they got you to install the keylogger on your system, and then they got it from you and not from us. So yeah, we actually, it actually worked amazingly. So this one was my favorite. Like a lot of people, you know, I'm introduced to this monolithic, decade-old code base, and told, okay, go ahead and implement this feature. And so it took a little while to get familiar. And like some people in this room, I'm sure, the way I got familiar with it was just with a source audit. Just read through, look at it, and I guess I didn't really intend it to start that way, but that's how it wound up. And find a bug here, find a bug there. Hey, look, if someone's playing around with the protocol, they're gonna be able to take down the server. I've got a slide for that one too. And until I found this one. And it was actually, you could type a command and crash the server. And how this got by QA, I do not know. I'd like to think that he was in one of the layoffs, hopefully. But how did it get into the code? Some dipshit wrote it. No, you have a follow-up question? I saw you put your hands up. Okay. Yes. So specifically, it was just an unsigned comparison, not checking that A to I, you know, will actually return negative numbers. It would use a signed index to index into an array, crash. Fortunately, after the discovery and we started tracking it down, it turned out it was only in a GM command, so there was no immediate threat, but there's also historically been pretty terrible control on who has GM accounts. So, this one is pretty awesome. Imagine, if you will, a structure that has a length. Okay. What the fuck, man? He's supposed to be a goon, like, helping me out, and he's attacking me up here. Okay, so imagine, if you will, a structure that contains a 4-byte length sitting at the front of a message, and then the remainder is used to store data. That means the length is specified by the client on the wire. Why do we do that? I don't know. But to change it apparently would break everything ever. So we essentially worked around it, ensuring that nothing would be received more than that, and checking some length boundaries. But why we still let the client specify how much data is coming in that fashion for a copy, I have no idea. And of course, dest is a fixed size buffer. It's actually lots of function pointers hanging out right after that, so it was pretty easy to actually do a quick POC. So, and yeah, like I said, no O-Day. This has been fixed, so don't try this at home. Okay, so trial accounts. I mentioned earlier that we give away accounts to people who just ask. They don't even have to ask nicely; they just ask. And the majority of trial accounts. And that's not 51%, that's like 85%. The majority of trial accounts belong to spammers and gold sellers. 10% of all trial accounts created in a 3-month period belong to one IP. We assume that this was some sort of cafe because, big surprise, you reverse it, oh look, it's in China, supplies. These accounts then get used to actually do the spamming and advertising for the gold that they're stealing from you with the keyloggers that they got to install on your system when you went and clicked on the link in the forum software. It's actually pretty sophisticated, pretty cool. Just really unfortunate that we were on the receiving end of it. So we suddenly started getting reports of players' accounts being emptied. And people are saying, well, I haven't played in X and Y months. There's no way that they got it from me and such and such. I didn't empty my account. So what we actually saw was that that same IP that had registered 10% of the trial accounts would slowly, over time, log into a bunch of high-level accounts. And they would log in once, they'd be there for about a minute or two, and then they'd log off. And then 6, 8, 9 months down the road, they would log on and transfer gold in 1 million increments to some random string of characters who would then in turn transfer it on to someone else. I don't know why they thought that was going to throw us off the trail when we have a fucking text log of what's going on, but they did. So what we suspect was that things were being harvested through keyloggers, since we specifically checked how many failed authentication attempts happened against these accounts that were emptied. 0. By and large 0. Sometimes occasionally you'd find 1, but it was from the real IP. So we assume there was no brute forcing, unless they were managing to do it in some incredibly stealthy way that evaded, us knowing when they make a TCP connection. We suspect they were coming in and inventorying high-level characters. And then once someone had made a request for gold, they would log back onto the character who they already knew how much they had, and they would transfer it out in 1 million at a time. And actually my favorite thing was when you ordered more than 1 million, they would send you 1,000,001, 1,000,002, 1,000,003, so that you knew which thing was a batch of how many millions you had received. Just seemed incredibly pragmatic, and they're clearly business-minded about it. So again, like I said, same IP. Not really that amazing. So we suspect it was actually a pretty large group. So how bad is it outside of where I actually got an inside peek? Senior producer Over at CCP says, "We don't trust the client. Blizzard trusted their client, and look at the mess they're in." And they're talking about WoW Glider actually having to go and engage in real litigation to deal with a game being hacked. I mean, really. I guess their paranoia is why I was able to just, inject Python and make the whole goddamn thing dance. Clearly they're doing something right. So there are a bunch of tools in the wild that things are actually being used. First one is AutoEve. Anybody who happens to follow my Twitter account, you've probably seen this. I may actually post up another link to it after I make sure it works in the latest version. It's just straight up Python injection. It does actually use vtrace right now, but could just as easily use something like debug help. Injects Python code and has a semi-sophisticated script for mining and automated travel and such. So my favorite story about this is that someone actually here in the crowd who, if you've seen a guy running around with a Thing 2 shirt on, he went and interviewed at CCP. And they looked at his resume and they said, "Oh, you're from Virginia. Okay, you're in the security industry. Have you played around with any hacking tools or game hacking before?" And he replied, kind of like a cautious yes. And they said, "Do you know Metro?" So remember how I said they know when you're working on something, I promise. Now, of course, they've never done anything to me or retaliated in any way. After this talk, that may change. Oh well. The tool is especially cool. It uses their own APIs. It's especially brittle because every time some programmer at CCP decides they want to change their API, I have to go change and use it, and I don't have their docs. CCP, like a lot of other gaming companies, is hiring security professionals. They have slots for people who are dedicated security personnel, including code hardening and architectural approaches. It's changing, so if you're looking to get into games, get your resume out there. There's actually a good chance right now in the hiring blitz that you can get in. And of course, like I said, came up just even in casual conversation. So. This is one of the more depressing things. I'd like to think that the hackers out there are, pretty sharp and pretty brilliant. This guy, this isn't the real name of the tool. I just didn't even want to give this guy the fucking hits from Google as you went and looked for it. You can find it if you're looking for it. It's just a simple scripting tool, and he bothered to XOR the strings used in getproc address for read memory, write memory. Because that took me a whole extra 90 seconds in IDA rather than just looking at the import table to just start the damn thing up and watch where he calls read and write process memory from. He, of course, went for direct reading and writing of memory. It actually was a pretty sophisticated little